I grew photos for like 23 years, and
oh wow,
I'm growing autos that make me not ever want to plant another photo seed again.
Hey guys, welcome to the Autoflower podcast. I'm your host, Chad, and man, I'm sure glad you're here. We've got a guest this week who is pretty popular actually. He's a test grower for Fast Buds, Mephisto Genetics, Seedsman Seeds, as well as a few others that I can't really remember right off the top of my head. But he's a pretty popular grower. I've had a couple of requests to contact him and get him on to the podcast, so I did, and he was cool enough to give us his time. So I had a good conversation with Green75. That's the name that he uses on Instagram. Most of the people that I interview that I chat with are from the Instagram community, because that seems to be where the cannabis community really flourishes and resides. I've said that before, and for some reason that's just the way it is. So if you're not on Instagram, man, you got to get it hooked up on Instagram. Speaking of that, follow the Autoflower podcast on Instagram. Also on Facebook, there's a page there if you want to like that, and you can also find the podcast on Twitter at AutoflowerPod. There's some good giveaways going on right now leading up to Autoflower Day. I reached out to Morningstar Seed Company, and they're going to be donating and giving away some seeds once a week up until Autoflower Day next month on the 20th. So a free 10-pack of seeds every week, and then on the 20th on Autoflower Day they're going to give away 3 10-packs. So this week the giveaway is the Auto Purple Dragon. I posted that on the Instagram, how you can enter to win that, as well as some pictures that our friend Greasy Greens posted of that plant that he grew. So you can check that out there, and you can enter and get yourself some free seeds, man. So now if you want to just close your eyes and pretend that you're clapping along with the rest of these fine folks as we welcome Mr. Green75.
I was a member of GrowWeedEasy.com forum. And there was a lot of people talking about autoflowers, and I had never grown one at that point, and they kept talking about how you couldn't train them, how you couldn't top them, how just so many negatives, so many bad stigmatisms against them as far as training them, and I just didn't believe it. I didn't want to accept it, and so that's what prompted me to grow autos. My first auto was a lowrider too, and right off the bat, from like day 3, I bent it straight over, and I did a lot of research, got a hold of Seedsman Seeds. They're the people that are putting that out, and their average yield for that plant was like 18 grams. Sorry.
Really? That's crazy.
Yeah. Their average average yield was 18 grams, and I got a little over 2 ounces off of it.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, so it just, I was intrigued. Well, I had built, at that time my tent was full of photoperiod plants, and I had just built a little shelf on the wall that I threw this auto on, 24 hours light, grew it. I abused the hell out of her because she was my first one. I was just trying to prove a point. Non-stop defoliation, tied every growth down as low as I could. I just really enjoyed her being able to take as much as I could give her, just for the sole purpose I was trying to abuse it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When people are saying, you can't top autos or you can't train them. So this was a while ago, right? When people were saying this, like, was this?
Yeah.
How many years ago was it?
When autos first became a thing, I believe it was the creator. I believe her name was, I want to say Mossy, and she's one of the head ladies, one of the head people at autoflowernetwork.com.
Okay.
She was one of, she's the lady that came up with the first auto, and it was a lowrider. And so that was like 20-some years ago. I mean, I might be off a few years, but it was a long time ago. And at that point, you know, the genes and the phenos and whatever has to do, they were new. And, you know, they were unstable. It was new. People, you know, so they topped them and they try to train them. And I believe that as the years went by, the word and the term auto within itself just became stronger because, you know, anything that you invent obviously becomes better as time goes on. And so now here we are 20-some years later, and the Autoflower is way different than what it was.
Yeah.
So now you are able to aggressively train them, top them, treat them. I treat mine just like I don't even look at my autoflowers as autoflowers. To me, they're just marijuana plants that I'm growing. I do nothing different to them.
I like that. Yeah, it's a plant.
Yeah, man. I have not met or seen. My mom is a master gardener. Got her certificate, the whole 9 yards. So what she has inadvertently taught me about weeds is that they will adapt, they will survive, and by God, they will thrive.
Yeah. Yeah, and the genetics that are available now, I mean, they're like, you know, some of the strains that I'm growing right now they're so fast, dude, and they grow so fast. Like, I topped it on, you know, I usually top mine like, you know, like around day 12 or something like that, depending on what node, but
right.
And then, yeah, I mean, you know, because I'm only in a 4-foot tent, so I've got like a ceiling I have to work with. So I kind of don't really have a choice but to top autos or to top my plants unless I'm growing in like a solo cup or just a half-gallon pot. But even a 1-gallon pot, like I've, you know, had them stretch up pretty far.
Right.
So like I have to top them and like spread them out and kind of open them up and let them, you know, create a short flat bush rather than a Christmas tree. So, you know, and really the reason I do that is because I kind of have to, you know. I got to be able to train them and top them and do stuff like that. And, I mean, the genetics nowadays, you know, I mean, I'm new in the game, so I'm lucky I get to just kind of come in and kind of bank off of everybody else's hard work, you know.
Right. Everything's already been laid before you.
Yeah, and I appreciate it, and I, like, you know, I was reading about the lowrider and stuff because I was trying to research the history of autoflowers and how, you know, where the very first one even came from. And I was reading about that lowrider strain when, you know, they first started crossing that Rooter Ellis and you know, how just inconsistent and crappy it used to be. But, man, like, if you look, you know, fast forward however many years it's been, 20, 25, whatever, I think it's pretty obvious that we've got some pretty good stuff on our hands here. For those that fancy the autoflower, there's great genetics available for people like us.
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, I grew photos for like 23 years. And
oh, wow.
I'm growing autos that make me not ever want to plant another photo seed again. So, you know, the genetics and the time from the breeders is really noticed and appreciated big time.
Yeah. So then you're like, so you grew photos for that long, huh? So it's not like you're ignorant to the photo game or that you don't know the difference. I mean, obviously you've got a substantial amount of experience in both, huh?
Oh, yeah, man. I've been growing since a little bit before I was 17 years old and got my first house. I just been growing weed, man. Whether it was indoors or outdoors, I've been growing it.
Wow. And according to your profile pic on Instagram, you're like what, 1,200 years old?
I'm 43.
Oh, okay. I'm just joking, dude, because you got Yoda on there.
Right, Yoda. Yeah. And, you know, and I came up with that picture from the Grow Weed Easy forum. You had to have an avatar, so I threw one on there. And then people began to recognize the avatar, so I just kept it with Instagram.
Yeah, I didn't realize that there was a forum. Do they still have a forum, or is that? I know they have a website, but
yeah, they have a forum.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. Yeah, that website alone was like a lifesaver for me when I was first growing my first plants. Being able to go on there and read about all the info on there is like an encyclopedia, man. It's great.
It really is a good website. It's independently ran by two independent owners, and it really is pretty good. I'm not gonna. Yeah, that's about all I can say about that.
Yeah, right on, man. Right on. So as far as training autoflowers and stuff, it's obvious that you like to mainline. Is there a reason for that? Is that you like the way it looks, or do you get more yield out of it doing it that way, or?
You know, that's a good question. I see people on Instagram not mainlining. Let's say they'll top at the third, and they'll keep the second and the first, and then they'll, train it all flat, and they got that, like a cross going on, and they come out with big old plants. I don't. When I started mainlining autos, it was just to piss people off and to prove that it could be done. Okay. And now that I'm like, let's see, how long have I've only been growing autos, dude, for like maybe 3.5 years. And I've kind of just stuck with it because, truthfully, man, I train the shit out of all my plants. I don't like tall, lanky plants. I see these pictures with these plants that are, let's say, 4 foot tall, and there's like 6 to 8 inches in between each node, and they got maybe one bud in that crevice, and, it just pisses me off, because why would you just, people claim that it's more about quality than quantity. Let's call their bluff. Everybody that grows marijuana wants every plant they grow to have the most buds on them that they can achieve. Correct?
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah.
Right. So why not train the shit out of your plants and get that to happen? My theory on why a plant will explode with buds if you train it versus untrained, tall, lanky plant is once you start messing with a plant, you top it, you cut it, you defoliate it, that plant goes into a mode that is like a survival mode. It doesn't want to die. It knows that it's just been cut.
Yeah.
So it comes back stronger. I notice no stunting. Even on my smallest plants that I harvest that might only be like 18 inches tall, I never noticed a stop in growth, oh my gosh, I'm pissed, let's just chill for a week and not grow at all. Every plant every auto I've ever topped, the very next day, I noticed some sort of growth, if you will. You know what I mean? So it's within every plant, every animal, it's within everything to come back and fight and be stronger. It's just simple nature, man.
Yeah, like the will to survive, huh?
Most definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Do you by chance follow Greasy Greens on Instagram?
I don't know if I follow him, but I have seen a lot of his posts. I know that.
Yeah, he mainlines like pretty monstrous, dude. I love it. But you know, like I was reading like the theory and the science behind mainlining, how, you know, when you top like at the third, and then you've got to remove those lower nodes, and then when you open those two new nodes up, the third node, I was reading how, you know, when you open them up and grow them out horizontally, how like the hormones and stuff on like, or the whatever, the cellular, I don't know, man, like the science, the biology or whatever, but somehow it actually triggers the plant to grow differently. And then like to where when it's laid out like that, it's like the you know, like a vine and then branches, like a grapevine and then the branches with the fruit almost, you know, how it, I don't know, I was reading something about that, but basically like just the energy, how it just shoots like 100% of its energy into those two nodes alone, and then you just end up with like all of these colas, you know?
Well, you're correct. Definitely. You're making, if you will, a central feed line. You know, it's no different. It's no different than sticking a needle in your arm and, you know, pumping whatever you need to pump into your arms to get healthy. It's just a straight line. It's straight up and straight out. You know, right. And once you cut them and once you remove the nodes, that plant just, it has no choice but to pop all these bud on top of bud nodes, on top of bud, on top of, it just, it doesn't want to die. It's in full self-preservation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I believe that, I mean, with every beat of my heart, I believe that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know what's funny is sometimes, like, when I top a plant, like the most recent plant that I topped, it literally didn't really stop growing. It just kept going. Like maybe a few hours, I'm sure, I don't know, but, like, you know, sometimes you top them and they maybe for a day or two they might slow down. Like, sometimes, man, you top them and they just keep going, dude.
Yeah, man. And if it's just, I don't really think that they slow down. If you notice the fan leaves that you leave, they'll get a little bigger. It's not that they slow down. They're just like, whoa, hey, what just happened? Let's just reinforce some shit, and you know they'll buff up. The fan leaves will get a little bigger before the tips. I mean, I you know what I mean? It's just
hard without a visual, huh?
Yeah, I do, man.
Yeah, I do. I do know what you mean. It's almost like it's just shifting energy. You know what I mean? Correct. And it's just a shift of energy. And once that energy kind of gets to the new locations of how it's going to operate or however that works, then it just starts exploding again. So it's like minimal. I wouldn't call it stunting, even. You know.
No.
I've stunted plants trying to mainline them, but it's because I topped multiple times too soon, and you know, so I stunted the growth, and then I ended up with 4 main colas on the outside because I topped it like 3 times, and then like all these little, you know, like pinky sized like popcorn little nugs sticking up all throughout the middle.
Right.
So I think if you're gonna do it, like, I think you got to do it correctly, you know, like, you know, from what I've found out.
Yeah, I don't think autoflowers should be topped more than once, just for the fact that you don't know what your time frame is. You know, like I just had one at 13 days pre-flower on me, so that's the earliest that I've ever experienced. And I've had a 19-day, and a 19-day pre-flower versus a 13-day pre-flower is really a big difference. You know what I mean, as far as plant progression. So
yeah, I totally agree. You know, I put, like, real quick, I put, like, I got a bigger pot. I got like a 6 gallons of soil in it, actually. And then what I did is I put like 3 seeds in there because they're regular seeds. So, and then I just thought I would pluck the males and then just leave the best female. So this one out of the 3, dude, like on day 9, it shot its roots all the way down out of the bottom of the pot. And then it showed its sex on day 13. It had a couple of pistils. So the same day. Is that what you said, day 13?
Yeah, day 13.
Yeah, so it was the same thing, day 13. So I pulled the other 2, and I kept that one. But one of them was a male, and it showed like on like day 12 or 13, it showed some little pollen sacs. So I pulled that one. And then this one that blew through the pot on day 9 and showed sex on day 13, I kept her, topped it, and dude, that thing is just exploding, man. So it's like I can't really apply the same timetable to this plant as I do some of the other ones I've grown. Is that kind of what you're saying? Like they change, you know?
Yeah, each plant is on, each auto is on its own time frame. My tent, I have a 3x3. I plant them all at the same time, and sometimes, you know, one doesn't come up, so I gotta re-germinate, and it'll be like 3 or 4 or 5 days behind.
Yeah,
and that 3 or 4 or 5 days in noticeably vegetation time is big. I mean, big.
Yeah.
So, and I've had, like now, I've got one, my, what the hell is it? Chimp Glue by Synergy Seeds is the one that didn't germinate well, and I had to regerm. So it's like 5 or 6 days behind. But it is already, if you will, healthier-wise, looking-wise, than a few of my other ones that are, you know, almost a week older. You know, each plant does its own thing on its own time. You know, they don't, to them, they're not on a time frame. They're just
doing their thing. Yeah, they're just like, they're marching to the beat of their own drum, dude.
Exactly, man. They're just doing their thing, man.
Yeah, I guess that's what some people don't like about them. I like that you can grow 2 strains, you know, you can pop 2 seeds that are from like the same parents and have 2 different, you know, time frames, 2 different plants. I mean, obviously with all the phenotypes and stuff like that, but I think that's what, you know, somebody was kind of, you know, giving me a hard time about autos on Instagram a couple of days ago, and that was kind of their argument, is they're too inconsistent, dude. You can't make a lineage and pop a seed and know what you're going to get, and you know, with a photo, you can clone it. And I thought, well, yeah, that's a good point. So if cloning a plant is important to you, then you probably don't want to grow autos. You know, but that's not really important to me. I'm not really into that. I kind of like the diversity and the variety, dude.
Right. It's them same people that say autos are for the lazy, are for the people that don't know anything. I tell you what, if you're going to be an avid auto grower, you better be on your photo game, because
what do you mean by that?
You got to be able to read your plant a lot sooner and a lot quicker than a photoperiod plant, because you don't have the time to let your plant sit unhealthy, because you're going to get screwed.
I see. Yeah, I've never grown a photo, so I don't. But I can see what you're saying. That totally makes sense, man.
When you have a photo plant that has any kind of deficiency, you have all the time in the world, unless, you know, you're selling your weed and you need the damn money.
Yeah.
You have all the time in the world to correct it. With an auto, you pretty much got to see a problem and then pretty much got to know the answer pretty quick.
Yeah, true. Yeah, because it's just keep going.
Autos are for lazy people. They're just people that haven't put the time into autos to realize that you got to be on your game. You got to know a little something to pull off a decent yield auto.
Yeah. What would you say your average yield is?
Man,
that's subjective, huh?
Okay, I will get upset if I get a plant that doesn't give me at least 6 ounces.
Damn, okay. That's pretty good, dude. I'm not there yet, but that's awesome.
My biggest was 13, and then under that was 10, and wow. I've had a bunch of 9s, a bunch of 8s, a bunch of 7s, and 6s. I've had 4s, 5s, and 3s, and 2. My only 2 was my very first Lowrider 2 is what it was.
Oh, okay. Wow, man. Yeah, I see, some of these guys. I saw this guy on Instagram. I think his name is Jim the Grower. He harvested an autoflower, I'm pretty sure in under 85 days, and weighed it dry like just over a pound.
Yeah, man, I believe it.
That's crazy. Yeah, and then actually a friend of mine on Instagram, Next Simple Life, he harvested one not too long ago that was nearing a pound, and he's got one right now in a 32-inch by 32-inch tent, and I'm pretty hopeful that it's going to surpass a pound dry as well. It's a freaking monster, dude.
Right.
So I mean, dude, that's just so crazy that if you've got the skill and the know-how and you practice and stuff, that you can pop a seed and within 3 months, like, you can have a half pound, 3/4 of a pound of like good cannabis. I mean, I think it's good. The autoflowers that I grow, I personally like them much better than the dispensary weed that I get.
I'm glad you said dispensary weed instead of photo weed, because people would have picked that apart. Weed's weed. You know what I mean? I don't know how old you are, but I grew up in a time where we smoked Mexican brickweed. It came in a block. Yeah. You had to break it up, and there were tons of seeds. You had to smoke 2 or 3 joints to get high. But by God, we got high. You know what I mean? We did it. We didn't think anything about it. And so now there's all these kinds of strains, all these breeds, all these breeders, all these autoflowers, photoperiod. What the hell's the difference? Yeah, it's all, that's right. It's people want to hate on autoflowers because they don't understand them, and they can't fathom that you don't have to change the light cycle, and your weed throws trichomes and resin and smell, and everything's there, and you don't have to change the light cycle. Well, by God, you're lazy. Those are just people that are stuck in their ways. It's like all the blue hair people in Congress. Once they're gone, weed will be legal. Everybody will be good. I don't know. It's
I hate, man. Yeah, it's the end product is really all that I care about. I'm pretty. I fancy like good beer. Like microbrews and different things like that. And I mean, I don't care. Like what really. Particular method that they use to brew that beer or whatever. As long as the end product is safe and I like it, then who cares?
Exactly, dude. I guarantee you, you're right. Hit the nail right on the head. I could post pictures. You could post pictures. Anybody could post pictures of this beautiful autoflower bud on any site, but not say that it's autoflower. Just say, here's this marijuana weed bud. Everybody in the world will like it and love it and say it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
If you were to post the same picture and say that it's an autoflower bud, man, you just get, you'd get 100 different reactions. It's
yeah. That's not going to go away.
Well, it's going to eventually.
Well, I hope it does. I personally don't really care, but yeah.
Well, I guess I don't really care either. Only reason why I kind of care is because, I don't enjoy opening my Instagram page and seeing these photoperiod pricks thinking that they know more than I do when they might, but their attitude and their way of thinking about other growers is really not polite.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I got caught into a comment thread with some opinions the other day. I try not to, but sometimes you get sucked into it. But you've got, I'm like, I'm on Instagram. I've got like, I don't even know, dude, like 13 or 1,400 followers. I mean, you have like over 20,000. So I'm sure you get all kinds of encouragement, and then I'm sure you get all kinds of like hate and getting picked on about different things and stuff too, huh?
Dude, on the minimum, I get minimum 5 new direct messages a day from people either sending me pictures of wanting to diagnose or people telling me that I'm full of shit.
That's hard to deal with, dude. That's a bummer.
And and the only reason why I'm on Instagram is and it's the only social site that I'm on is because I'm a tester, and my breeders and the breeders that I but that I grow for, they need me to, if you will, showcase what I grow. So that's the only reason why I'm on Instagram. I could give a shit less about people's opinions, but sometimes in photoperiod people just get under my skin. Yeah, they have no idea who's on the other side of that picture. Like I've been growing weed almost half my stupid life, and they're trying to tell me, not that I'm learning every day. I mean, don't get me wrong. My plants get problems. They get issues. Their leaves look weird. I'm constantly questioning myself, just like a newbie. But in the end, I got to trust what I know and go with the flow. You know what I mean? It's just a plant,
So who do you test for? Can you say, or, can you talk about that?
Yeah, man. Seedsman Seeds, Synergy Automatics, Mephisto, Fast Buds. There's Stranger Seeds. And I think there's one more, but I don't really remember.
Damn, I'm on the phone with royalty, dude. I didn't know you were such a damn rock star.
I'm not a rock star, dude. I just grow weed, and the only reason why I'm involved is just so I don't have to pay for the seeds.
Yeah, I got you. And it works out for them because then, they do get to test their strain, and they get to test it with transparency in the public eye through growers like you.
Yeah, I'm just one of the growers that will take their seeds and mutate and mutilate and cut on a lot. And people like to see that, I guess. That way they can believe and trust that, autoflowers aren't everything that the old school people think they are.
So what does a typical grow look like for you? Do you have any like special ways that you do things that are like kind of unique to you, or do you just kind of test different things out, or do you have like a full-on routine?
Man, there's all kinds of questions and answers in that question.
There is, isn't there? I guess typically, like, do you typically just grow in soil, or are you in cocoa, or do you switch back and forth? Do you mess around with hydro, or?
Years and years ago, I built a few hydro systems and then eventually bought an ebb and flow. And you name it, I've done it. I've grown in every kind of way there could be grown. I've made my own. I've bought my own. Now I just use Coco Loco. It's a pre-mixed bag by Fox Farms. It's part of their Bush Doctor series. I have no complaints with this medium. It's instant gratification, and lots of people have switched to it since they see me use it, and I get feedback saying that they agree. It's pretty awesome. I don't know what it is. My stalks are thick. My stems are thick. At like day 8, day 9, day 10, I got, pinky-sized stalks, and people are freaking out. And the only thing I can tell them is it's my medium, because I've had the same medium under a different light and it had the same results. So it's got to be the Coco Loco.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's not the cheapest, but it is definitely worth every penny you're going to pay.
Yeah. I got a random question for you because I'm sitting here staring at my plants.
Yeah.
What when you harvest, like, what do you typically look for? Do you kind of just look for trichome development, like milky and amber, or is it a kind of a combination of things that you look for?
No, man. A lot of people look at trichomes, and a lot of people look at trichomes on the wrong area.
Okay.
To look at trichomes, you should be looking at the calyx. The calyx, if you will, is your bud. It's just your bud is nothing but calyxes stacked on top of each other. Mm-hmm. You need to look there, where your red hairs, where your white hairs come out of that little pod-looking thing.
Yeah.
That's where you need to be checking your trichomes, not your sugar leaves, not your fan leaves, your calyx. I personally, when I see amber on my calyx, I start my flush.
Mm-hmm.
How long I know I flush at least 3 days to a week.
Okay. So when you're flushing, are you putting water through your soil every single day, even if it's not dry, or do you wait for it to dry? And because if you say 3 days, like for me, that's one water.
Every single day when you're flushing for your harvest, you need to be doing it every day, and you need to have at least 40% runoff.
Mm-hmm.
Because you want to bleach everything out of that medium. Whatever's in there, you want to get rid of it. You want that plant to suck and use everything within itself.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also, there's stripper agents. I have one that I use sometimes. Sometimes I don't. It just depends on my time frame. If I'm in a hurry, I'll put a stripper in it. And if I'm not in a hurry and I feel like I'm going to let it go for like a week on a flush, then I won't use it because I'm going to flush it enough times every day that it won't matter.
Yeah, I kind of do the same thing. But I don't, I'm organic now, like my soil, I'm kind of like experimenting with different methods of organic growing. Some of my plants, I've got the Autoflower concentrate from Nature's Living Soil. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that stuff's great. I love it. And then now I've got some bokashi that I'm kind of like mixing into my soil to recycle it and develop like microbial life and stuff like that. So I'm kind of like confused on the whole flushing thing when it comes to that. But I used to use like the Fox Farm nutrients and stuff, and definitely with stuff like that, like I used to flush the living crap out of my plants until the leaves just looked like necrotic and just like faded and dead, trying to get everything that I can.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. Organic growers think they don't have to flush because they're organic and they're not adding bottle newts to it. That medium that they're using and only adding plain water, well, there's still, there's nutrients in that medium. Just because you're adding plain water every rip doesn't mean that there's, so yes, even if you're organic, I would flush every day just the same. I would get as much as possible out of that medium so that plant has to feed off itself.
Okay. That makes sense, but then it doesn't at the same time. I just confused because isn't like with bokashi, like that's a living
hold on. You're using that to regenerate old medium?
Yeah. The bokashi, yes, not the Autoflower concentrate. The Autoflower concentrate, I just have that mixed in with Fox Farm's Happy Frog.
I thought we were talking about the harvest flush.
I was just confused about flushing organics. But if you're saying like, so the soil, if it's a living soil, like, what are you flushing the life out of it?
If it's a living soil and it's harvest time, yes, you should still flush the life out of it because it still has its nutrients in it. I mean, tell me that makes sense because, I mean...
Because I was, the other plant that I have, I'm getting ready to harvest it this weekend, it's in organic soil. And I did go ahead I went ahead and flushed that, and it did fade. It's fading, and the leaves are doing what they do, just like bottled nutrients. So there is something to it, you know. I just don't understand it scientifically yet because I'm just ignorant in that area.
No, it's not scientific at all. Look, you bought soil that has everything in it, correct?
Yeah, well, I bought a bag of Fox Farm Happy Frog, and then I bought this Autoflower concentrate. It's like this this compost that just smells really foul. Yeah, and you mix that in with it, yes.
Right, so you end up with this product that you only add water to, correct?
Correct.
All right, so, and you only add enough water so there's no runoff because you don't want to drain or waste any of the nutrients that are implanted in your medium, correct?
Typically, yeah, I do usually water when there's to a little bit of runoff myself, just so I know all of my roots got wet, and I'm a total like Nazi when it comes to checking my pH, like my pH runoff, my pH in. But yeah, like today I watered without any runoff. I just gave it enough water to wet the soil.
Right. So we agree that you only water to keep what's in there. You don't want to run out what you have in there, right? Right. So Right. So when it comes to your harvest flush, all them nutrients that you did not rinse out because you had no runoff or enough runoff or excessive runoff, it's still in there. So your harvest flush, you add water. If you don't add enough water to run all the shit out of there, you got to rinse, you got to bleach all that out of there. It's still going to be feeding off your medium because that's your medium's built for that. You definitely need, or you definitely want to, flush your organic because, like you said, you got one now that's fading out, and it's doing exactly what cannabis does. Once it gets to its point, all right, picture this. Let's go photoperiod outside. Let's say late August, beginning of September. That plant's going to start to fade out. Why is that? It's in the earth. It's in the ground. It's got everything around it to feed off of. But not really. Them roots have done drenched, bleached all the food out of that area that they're in. And so now, the fall rains are coming, the less light is coming. They don't have the resources, if you will, to continue with the luscious green. So they start fading out. The buds start to ripen. They start to get fat. It's just a natural process. It's, you can't harvest a plant and think that you don't have to flush it and think that everything inside is going to be clean as it could be. I'm kind of rambling, man. I'm like...
Oh, that's okay. No, I like it. I definitely, I have to say, like, from experience, because I've harvested some, at the beginning, I was harvesting plants, and they were just like, they were as green as a brand new Christmas tree from a tree lot,
Right.
But, they're also, a little more harsh and stuff, even after you cure them and everything. And then I started flushing them, and I would take them to the point where the leaves were just like dead and almost falling off. And man, it's super clean, super smooth in product, dude. It makes a difference. That's for sure. Yeah, it makes a difference.
It does make a difference. And I think all this came from the organic topic, and definitely flush your organics, man. Definitely.
Right on, brother. Well, dude, I appreciate your time, man. Really appreciate it, dude, and have yourself a good evening.
Hey, you too, dude. Thank you.
All right, man. Bye.
Yep. Later.
Well, thank you again for listening to the podcast. I really appreciate it, you guys. If you could, as I always ask, rate and subscribe and comment, that would be great. It would help it grow, help us reach more people, and help us build our community together. So thank you so much. Hope you have a great week. See you next Wednesday.